You know, I've just read about trains, and nobody knows who the true inventor of the train was. Speaking about inventors, one of the first early American inventors was Thomas Edison. He spent over 100 times trying to...
It's Ben Franklin.
What?
Yeah.
Can I have my note card? Oh. Me and my film crew went back in time to colonial America to Ben Franklin's father's house, Josiah Franklin, to get the real scoop of Ben Franklin as a son. Right behind this door is Ben Franklin's father. Right behind this door is Ben Franklin's father. So here we are with Ben Franklin's father, Josiah Franklin, and it's great to have you here. So my name is Mr. Rando, and I was wondering, can I ask you a couple of questions about your son, Ben Franklin?
Sure. I'll try to answer anything I can regarding Ben.
Since Ben Franklin was an inventor and such a great student, was he always this smart, like even at a young age?
You know, it's a good question. I mean, he was always very intelligent. You know, from a young age, I could always tell that. And you know, I actually originally wanted to put him into the church, but after the tuition was just outrageous, and he didn't seem to have a knack for that. So I took him out, but I put him in a grammar school, and developed his writing and math skills. And he wasn't too good at math, but he excelled at writing. After like 2 years of that, I took that out too, and brought him to come work with me. So yeah, he always liked learning.
So why did you choose to have Franklin be an intern at your soap shop instead of having him further his love for reading and writing?
Well, you see, I have had a lot of sons, and I kind of see how they learn and how they do things. And my one son James just ran off and started his own newspaper thing, which ended up being okay. But Ben's always had this knack and love for the sea, and I didn't want him going out to sea and just getting involved with any of that. So I wanted to keep him on the land and find him a good trade. So I started him at my place because he was very young at the time. And then I wanted to keep him away from the sea, basically.
Yeah, I understand. But with your relationship with Ben, was he the kind of kid to maybe disobey you from time to time, or did he show you respect throughout even his younger years?
Ben liked to do a lot of things on his own, and I can't really say that he was mischievous in the way that someone would vandalize something, but there was the thing with the wharf. He was always drawn to the water. As I was saying, he always had the knack for the sea, but he wanted to build a little thing to go fishing off of. So he stole. He got some guys to steal a rock from this house that was being built. And when I found out about it to him, I decided I got to really tell him that this is not something. Nothing good will come out of dishonesty. And he was trying to argue that it wasn't like he was just stealing. He was trying to make something useful out of it. But he's mischievous in that way, but it's not in a demonic or evil way.
Okay. What are some things that you disagree about, like Ben's actions?
Well, I always thought I did a good job trying to instill good morals in Ben, but that kind of threw it right back in my face after I sent him and had him go be apprenticed to his brother James, and they had, of course, brothers always had their disagreements there, but Ben decided to break his contract, which he signed, to be apprenticed to James for a while. Ben broke that contract and just left. So one, he was kind of loose in his morals with his family, his own brother James, and also that I thought I did a better job instilling honesty and trustworthiness.
Yeah.
So I disagree with his action there. Yeah.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Well, I think that's about it for today. Thank you,
Yeah, absolutely.
Mr. Franklin. It was great to have you here.
It's great being here.
Bye. We're back from commercial break with our second interviewer, James Franklin, Benjamin Franklin's brother, to see how Ben Franklin was as a sibling.
Great to be here. I have a lot to say about Benjamin.
Great to have you. So we know you and Ben worked very hard together at a young age. What is that like?
Well, Ben was a hard worker. Even though he didn't know everything, he pored over the books, getting his hands on anything he could to become better and smarter, and he was a great, great writer.
But did you two always get along?
No, we did not. He always complained and whined that I didn't pay him enough, and he was not an easy kid to get along with, and we'd argue over just small matters.
Interesting. Well, you know they always say like you should never get into business with your family.
Well, they're right. Back in the day, I was put in jail for some political reasons. Won't get into that. Ben took over my print shop while I was in jail, and he started another little fight with me, and they broke his contract. Untrustworthy, deceitful, never trust him.
That's awful. Just ignoring the business part of yours and Ben's relationship, how would you say overall he was as a brother?
Ben, he was a caring guy, generally. I won't take that away from him. But, however, he was untrustworthy, always looking to pick a fight. He had trouble taking authority and, listening to me, even though I was his older brother. He always wanted to be the smartest guy in the room, and he couldn't always be that. It's made him impossible to get along with.
Interesting. Well, that's all we really need to hear about Ben as a brother. Thank you for coming out to meet us.
No problem.
Now we have the privilege to speak with Benjamin Franklin's wife herself, Deborah Reed. It's a pleasure to have you this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, we'll begin with the accusations brought against her husband, Benjamin Franklin, in the American Weekly Mercury. The source cites a biography of Mr. Franklin that was written by Franklin himself, an autobiography, if you will, as the main source of the argument. The source claims that in his autobiography, Mr. Franklin discusses the fact that he must improve on the virtue of chastity. His definition of the word reads as follows: rarely use venery but for health or offspring, never to dullness, weakness, or the injury of your own or another's peace or reputation. The source presumes that this definition almost sounds like an admission of guilt, an apology of what he did for his past wrongs. What do you make of this?
Well, first of all, I'm amazed to find that this source had access to my husband's private writings. I should think the situation should be investigated as a robbery. And secondly, I recall Ben writing about his intention to improve his chastity, and I can assure you it was nothing more than that. Ben was a scientist at heart, and he had set out on an experiment of self-improvement. His documentation of his chastity was only a measure of how he felt he could improve himself.
That might be what you think, but the source goes on to present specific examples of correspondence between Franklin and several women while he was in France. According to these letters, Franklin dined twice per week with one Madame Brion de Joy, permitting her to sit on his lap while they spoke, and did Lord knows else together. Another evidence points to a different lover, Madame Helvetius, as being who he hoped to be his wife in Elysium. Elysium, as you know, is the Greek place of paradise. And when Mr. Franklin supposedly wished to be with her there, he even went further to hope that Madame Helvetius would marry him.
Well, I highly doubt Benjamin proposed to anyone. I can understand his desire for more intelligent conversation than I could provide. These wealthy women were undoubtedly of the highest estate in France, and would have provided Benjamin with a little bit of a more intellectual conversation than perhaps he could have with me. I am not nearly as well educated, but I did the best I could. I even recall Benjamin writing about me in his autobiography, which, again, I'm not sure where anyone got a hold of that.
Sure.
I shall be investigating that, I'll have you know. Ben always considered himself lucky to have me, whether it was assisting him in his profession, in his experiments around the house, or I seem to recall even the one time when I purchased some new china and silverware. He wrote that he that must thrive must ask his wife. And while I may not have possessed as much intellect or wealth as those women in France, I possessed Benjamin's heart and attention, and that's what really mattered to him.
Sure, that must be what you think, but in actuality, all evidence suggests that is not what Mr. Franklin valued. The source cites again in his autobiography, saying that Mr. Franklin spends pages describing his attempts at improving himself and his concepts of virtue. He even goes on at length about a 13th virtue, humility, that he added in. But he never mentions chastity again apart from the original list. Is he avoiding that topic? Is it a sore subject between you two? Could it affect your marriage?
No, I don't think so at all. Ben must have felt as though the subject was so insignificant enough not to give it much thought. He always considered marrying me as one of correcting his greatest mistakes. We overcame many struggles together, including previous relationships, difficult economic times, and we lost a son together. All through that, we stayed happily married through the years, even when he was away in France. And you can read about that in his book. That book will be taught to schools someday. I can tell you that.
Yeah, we'll see about that. Well, that's all we have for today. Thank you so much again for coming in, Ms. Franklin.
Well, thank you for having me.
For my last interview today, I would be interviewing William Franklin, who came here begrudgingly, but has agreed to have an interview with me only if we talk about him and his father.
Yeah, you want to know about my father? I'll tell you about my father.
So it is an interview. We can have this.
You can call it whatever you want. I'm just, I want the people to know what my father was really like.
Well,
But
that's
if you stray any little bit away from the topic of my father, I'm out of here. Those are my terms. You agreed to them.
Well, that's fine. All I need to know about is your relationship with you and your father.
Okay.
Can you tell me before this whole patriot loyalist thing happened, did you and your father have a strong relationship?
No, our relationship was complicated. He kind of ruined my whole life. He ruined my chances of success, everything. He called me a illegitimate son, and how am I supposed to get a job like that?
So you are saying that the claim that you are Deborah Reed's son is true, and your parents just hid it to not cause any conflicts?
No, I'm not. I don't know. I never asked him that. I'm not saying any of that. There's no evidence.
What? But you're the son. You're the one person who should know this. Let's just move on to the next question. When you were younger and you were with your other brother Francis and your sister Sarah, would you say that Ben cared for you and siblings back then well?
Yeah, he cared for us. He loved us all, but he wept greatly when Francis died and everything. But today's totally different. His ideas destroy relationships, and I don't even speak to him anymore. He doesn't speak to me. I don't even want to speak to him.
Wow, those are mighty strong words for a Tory.
I thought we were supposed to be talking about my dad here. Now you're bringing it. No.
Oh, I didn't see you there. Sorry, just reading about Nikola Tesla and Benjamin Franklin and electricity. Well, anyways, what a great episode we had. Learned about Benjamin Franklin and his relationship with all of his family members. If you want to learn more about Benjamin Franklin's family members, go to our website, and you can play a fun activity too. Well, that's all we have for this episode. See you later.